So I think the most interesting part of this series is if the Sixers can score on the Raptors. So I'm going to take the first minute or two to talk about the other side of this, which is, can the Raptors score on the Sixers? I mean, Embiid is, of course, a great defensive player, assuming he's able to play and all that. The first question is whether he can defend Marc Gasol. I think if Marc is in the low post, he certainly can, but he's going to be spacing the floor out a lot, and we've seen that Embiid does have problems with that. But even so, I'd like to think that Embiid is not going to get torched by Marc Gasol in this series, so I'm expecting that Embiid will definitely cause some problems for the Raptors. And then, in terms of Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Mike Scott, there are enough big-bodied dudes who are at least respectable on defense. Even then, this team has had some problems containing guards. And Kyle Lowry is interesting because sometimes he can put up a solid 17, 18 a game. Sometimes he's putting up 6 points. So I could picture them finding ways to overwhelm Lowry a bit with their size. And I also think Jimmy Butler defending Kawhi is not a lost cause. I mean, yeah, Kawhi is still going to be able to do his thing, but I think Jimmy Butler can match him physically. Now, the Raptors are always going to be able to attack JJ Redick, and that might be the thing that does Philly's defense in. But still, I don't think the Sixers are going to get destroyed by the Raptors because of their inability to defend them. I think if the Raptors are going to have their way with Philly in this series, it's going to be on the other side, where Philly's going to try to score on them, and now we can get into all that stuff. We've seen the weird things that go on with Philly's offense throughout the series against the Nets, even if eventually they just kind of pounded the Nets' faces in. But even so, especially in Game 1, the spacing problems and Embiid taking jump shots and Ben Simmons not knowing what to do when he doesn't have the ball, those things did creep up enough to where it's safe to say the Philly's got some things they got to figure out. And unfortunately for them, they are facing a team, the Toronto Raptors, that are full of tall, versatile, athletic, smart defensive players. Between Kyle Lowry, not as tall but very strong, Danny Green, Kawhi, Siakam, Ibaka, Marc Gasol, Norman Powell, potentially OG Anunoby. I know he had a health thing going on. If you don't know what you're doing on offense, the Raptors could make you look really stupid. And the way this team can trap and swarm ball handlers and reach in on Joel Embiid post-ups, and the fact that Kawhi Leonard just might put Ben Simmons into the fetal position, I do want to give Philly a chance to make this a respectable series, but part of me thinks the Raptors could kind of clown them in this thing. The first thing to look at is the Marc Gasol-Joel Embiid matchup, because I guess Gasol is going to start in the series. So against Marc Gasol, Joel Embiid is averaging 14 points on 34% shooting. So for all the talk about how Al Horford has Embiid's number, I think Marc Gasol actually has it potentially even more. They haven't played as much, and at least one of those I think was in Embiid's rookie season, so he's definitely improved over time. But even recently, he has not killed Gasol at all, really. And I think it makes sense as to why when you think about it. Gasol is a very good post defender. He's smart, and he's not going to foul you a lot. And of course, Embiid does rely on getting fouled to score a lot of his points. I mean, he's shot how many free throws a game this year? 10. So if he's not getting those, then he's like a 17, 18 point guy. And if he's that, then Philly has no chance of winning this series. On top of the post-ups, I don't think Embiid is going to be able to drive past Gasol that much. I also think Marc is not going to be stupid and go for the Embiid pump fake, which some centers do. Like, if Joel wants to do anything from the three-point line, you just go ahead, Embiid. Take as many jump shots as you want to. And we did see him do that against the Nets. And, he did rein it back, but even so, that is still kind of in him, where Embiid can be baited into taking jumpers. Now, of course, Serge Ibaka exists, and I'm assuming that he is going to be defending Embiid at times as well. He's not as big as Marc. He is more athletic. I do think he's still strong enough to where Embiid can't just push him around in the low post. So all that's going to be interesting to see who's the best one-on-one Embiid defender. But of course, when Embiid is posting up, these other Raptors are going to have something to say about it. I don't think they're going to flat out double team Embiid. I mean, maybe sometimes, depending on where Ben Simmons is standing. But I do think there's going to be a lot of moments of swiping at him and daring him to make a pass and then closing out, because I think they're capable of doing that. I mean, I don't know how long Pascal Siakam's arms are, but I know they're pretty freaking long. Danny Green's, Kawhi's, I mean, you can just go down the list of players. Like, these guys are just going to be constantly swiping at everything Embiid does. They're going to be trying to come weak side for block shots. And I think they're going to be pretty successful at doing these things. Not to say that Embiid's going to look bad. I'm expecting him to still put up some good numbers, but I don't think the Raptors are going to be scratching their heads trying to think of how to deal with this guy. Now, it'll be interesting to see the rebounding. Toronto was cool at defensive rebounding during the year, and they actually got better towards the end of the season. But I could picture Embiid really committing to the offensive boards and giving them problems. I don't know. I figure if you're facing a great defensive team, you should probably attack the offensive glass like crazy. So between Joel, Ben, Jimmy, Tobias, everybody hitting the boards would probably be a good thing. Speaking of the other guys, let's talk about the other guys. So, one X factor that the Raptors have, among many, is that they have Kawhi Leonard. So, at any time, you can just sick him on a ball handler, and there's a chance that he could take that guy completely out of the game. I mean, we've seen Ben Simmons take himself out of playoff games, so he's going to have to be ready for the Kawhi Leonard thing, which, at its most nuclear, it can make you look like you actually are a third grader. So whether that means Ben setting extra screens, which was successful at times for the Nets, cutting to the basket, trying to establish good post position and then shooting a quick little hook shot or whatever, I think he's going to have to bust out more of that, because if it's just simply, I'm going to do my Ben Simmons thing, Kawhi Leonard, I don't picture that working. I just really don't. Call me crazy. Call me crazy that a guy who has made LeBron James go, oh crap, this guy's entering the game again, can slow down Ben Simmons. But a similar thing can kind of be said for Pascal Siakam. I mean, he's not as good as Kawhi, but I think he could give Ben some problems as well in transition and all that, certainly in the half court. I even think Kyle Lowry switched onto Ben Simmons isn't that horrible. I mean, Lowry is one of those guards like Chris Paul and Marcus Smart, where they're pretty good at defending guys taller than them. Plus, of course, Ben can't shoot, so that could make it a little easier as well. Also, the Raptors are just not going to do anything stupid. I mean, if they decide to leave Ben Simmons wide open and then he kills them on it, they just won't do it again, you know? Whereas other teams would just be like, well, crap, we don't know what to do. It's not going to be the case with this team. Now, I guess I should attempt to make a case for Philly winning this thing. They're certainly a talented team. I will go back to the whole Ben Simmons off-ball stuff. I think that's probably their best bet, is the idea of Ben just kind of moving along the floor and just setting a million screens as this 7-foot dude, because then that's going to force the Raptors to make decisions in terms of switching, or, I mean, you pretty much can never trap the ball handler if Ben Simmons sets a screen, because then you just got a 7-foot guy going towards the rim. That's probably their go-to. I mean, if it's Jimmy Butler ISOs or Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid pick and rolls and then Ben Simmons just kind of standing over there, I don't see how Philly can win. Unfortunately, they just haven't played that much together. And I think you need that familiarity to go up against a team that can do so much defensively, right? Because the Raptors, they can go big with Gasol at the 5. They can go small with Ibaka. They can switch a lot of matchups in this series. If they decide to trap ball handlers, I think they have the length and speed to, number one, really overwhelm the guy with the ball, but then number two, rotate to the now open people, and then one of the dudes who was originally in the trap can then get to where they gotta go, and yeah, I mean, Toronto's defense, it is what it is, man. I just think Philly has not figured out their offense enough. I don't think their spacing is there enough. And I think the Raptors are going to win this thing. To be nice to Philly, I'll say 6 games. Also because I never have the guts to say anything besides